Hey, badass business owner, welcome back to the show. Today, I want to talk about recalibration. I think the title is Sometimes You Just Have to Recalibrate. I have been in some really cool conversations over the last few weeks with some folks that have been in business for about 1 to 3 years. I think the longest was 4 years. And one of the things that we were talking about is how they've built a pretty good business for themselves. They've done pretty well. They've managed to have a decent 2020, even with everything that's going on. But yet there's something missing. They're still not happy. They feel like they're kind of stuck. They feel like they can't grow anymore. There's all kinds of different reasons why we actually got into this conversation, but the running theme through them all was the fact that they just weren't happy. So here they've built this good solid business. They've got nothing to complain for. They make decent money. In some cases they make great money, but yet it's not enough. They just feel like they're stuck. And when you get to this time, I always say that this is the time when you need to kind of step back and you need to recalibrate, because we don't want you in a business that is doing well for you, and the business is doing well, but yet you just feel stuck. Now, in some cases, the business may still be a little bit struggling, and you can't really make a change. Well, you need to recalibrate. And that's where I think it sometimes gets confusing, because sometimes we recalibrate because it's not working. And in some cases, you recalibrate and it is working, and it's really weird going, why do I need to recalibrate? Recalibrating really just comes from anytime you hit a wall. Whether you hit a wall because of negative reasons, we tend to be a lot more motivated because we know we got to make some changes because something's just not working. But sometimes it's more difficult to identify that you need to recalibrate when things seem to be going okay. But yet there's this thing inside of you, this gut, if you will, that is telling you that, hey, something's off. And I don't know if I want to keep doing this. I don't know if I want to keep plugging away at this. What am I building? What's the end game? What am I trying to do? And what happens to happen sometimes is that we have to step back and we have to say, okay, you know what? Maybe I do need to stop for a second. Let me pause it, because we get so wrapped up in everything that we're doing. If you think about it, when your business is running well, a lot of times your business is also running you. So you're just run. You know what it takes to be successful. So rinse, repeat, you keep doing it and the business keeps doing well. But yet then there's times when you just feel like you're struggling because the business is doing well. Here's one for you, where the business is doing really well, but it just seems like such a struggle that you're constantly having to either replace people or chase down new customers. But the business is, it's weird, because when you look at it, the business is doing really well, but yet you're so miserable and you're so unhappy and you're so tired. A lot of times when you're tired, it's what creates a lot of those other emotions that are going on. Because when you're tired, you just feel like you just can't get ahead and you just can't catch a breath. You can't breathe. You can't take time off because the business needs to keep going, when all you want to do is really just say, you know what, can I just shut this all down for like 2 weeks? Let me get my bearings back and then pick it back up. But yet we're afraid to do that because, one, we've already got people in the pipeline. We already got business we need to do. There's never a good time. And we know, hey, I need the money. I can't afford to shut it down. Sound familiar for some of you? I bet it does. And I'm not going to lie, it feels that way for me sometimes too. And I think that's just the nature of the beast, if you will. But what the big thing that I wanted to talk about with the recalibration is sometimes when you realize that it can't keep going the way that it's going, that's the time you have to recalibrate. And you have to start carving out the time, whether it's just starting and planting the seed and thinking about this while you're driving, to eventually sitting down and writing this out. And you have to kind of start. I want you to start in the future. I want you to start when you go to recalibrate. I want you to start in the future. I want you to go ahead 3 years, 5 years, somewhere in that time frame, and ask yourself, what would the business look like if you felt better? I mean, what about it needs to change in order for you to re-energize yourself, re-fall in love with your business? Or even determine if this is the business you want to continue to run. Maybe you have found that one side of the business is doing better than another side of the business, but yet you've built such a business in one direction that do you have what it takes to turn around and go in the other direction? Can you let go of things? I know business owners that used to run all over the place, and one day they just said, I can't keep running all over the place, but I know if I stop running all over the place, I'm going to lose all this business that I do. And the reality is they finally made the call to stop running all over the place and just focus on a core area. And guess what? They're having the best year ever, and they're making 10 times more profit because they're not wasting all of that time running all over the place. They're able to do more local jobs. They're able to stop all that expenses for gas and for people and for missed jobs because they were driving all over to tarnation. And guess what? The profits went up, all because they took the time to stop and recalibrate what their business should look like. And a lot of times what happens is as we think about it, when you started your business and you started growing, you took every job you could to get that business off and running. And eventually you built this monster, this big business, and it may not have been what you wanted to build. It went in a different direction. Or maybe it's just, it became exactly what you thought it was going to be, and it turns out you're not happy with it. It's not what lights your fire. It's not the life that you wanted to have for yourself. But here's the thing. I don't want you to throw the baby out with the bathwater. I don't necessarily want you to get rid of the business. I don't want you to get to the point where you want to walk away. I want you to step back and say, hey, what needs to change to create the business that I really want to have? So when you think about that 3 years from now, what do you want that business to look like? Now, I get it. You want it tomorrow. You don't want it in 3 years. I get that. But first you got to understand what it is that you want. You might get there in 1 year. You might get there in 2 years. You don't know until you even know what it is that you're pushing for. So don't fight me. And I want you to take off that I can't hat. Okay. And I want you to put on the possibilities hat, because the possibilities hat, you're going to make it happen. You know what? You defied the odds and got your business to where it is today. Most businesses fail and fall apart in the first year. You've gotten past that already. So now it's a matter of saying, okay, now that I've got this thing going, what do I want it to look like? What is it that ideally is the business that I want? Now that I know what I know, what do I want that to look like? You see, that's part of the problem is in the beginning, when we start our businesses, we have an idea of what we want to try to build. Then we end up with something else. But at least we had an idea of what we were trying to do. What happens is about 3 years in, we kind of get swallowed up by what it became, not necessarily where we want it to be. So I want to challenge you to say, what do I want this to look like in that 3 to 5 year range? And then work backwards to say what needs to change today in order for me to get there. Okay. So it might mean that you stop doing certain things. It might mean that you stop offering certain services or products and go all in on other products or services. It might mean that you no longer service a certain area. Okay. I was going to say demographic, but it's not so much demographic, but it may mean that you say, hey, I tighten this up and I'm not going to go, 15, 20 miles away. I'm going to just focus on my 5-mile radius of what I'm going to do. It might mean that you say, hey, I'm going to go after this high-end stuff, or I'm going to get rid of 50% of my customers and I'm going to build it up over this way because I'm going to replace it with these products or services. Whatever it is, okay, before you go walking away from the business or getting to the point where you just hate the business, which some of you are already at, I want you to ask yourself, what do you have to do to recalibrate? What would it take to re-fall in love with your business? What would it take to get your business to the point where you're like, you know what? I love what it is that I do. In some cases, it might mean that you have to hire somebody. In some cases, it might mean that you have to fire some people. In some cases, it might mean that you make all kinds of changes. It might be that you close down your brick and mortar altogether, and it might mean you go 100% online, or vice versa, that you hate the online hustle and you want to figure out how you can take it mobile or brick and mortar. Whatever it is for your particular business, what needs to change to create that business that you want? Maybe you're missing a certain segment. Maybe you're not getting the sales that you want to get. Okay, great. Why is that? Are you chasing the wrong customer? Are you chasing and selling the wrong products or services and you need to completely change that? Once again, it's all about recalibrating. It's all about stepping back and saying, where is it I'm trying to go? Not where I ended up, but where am I trying to go? And what changes do I need to make in the business to be able to get there. So hopefully that is making some sense. Matter of fact, here, I'll give you another example. When it comes, something I've been thinking really hard about has to do with this podcast. Okay. I've been doing this podcast now. We're at like 420 episodes or something like that. And I've gone from, 3 a week to 2 a week. I've kind of gone back and forth, and I've been contemplating, part of my recalibration is now that there's 400 plus episodes out there, and I get people that reach out and they go, oh my God, there's just so much content. I can't, and with me putting out 2 more a week, it just adds to that. I also thought about myself. Maybe I need to step back and just do 1 episode a week, and then go take that extra time and put it into the YouTube videos on knowing your numbers, because obviously knowing your numbers is easier when it comes to video versus audio. It's much more difficult to follow numbers. So that's something that I myself have been recalibrating, and it's a change I'm probably going to make to where I go down to once a week. But here's what happens. It's funny because I was linking this thought process to you and your business. And one of the things that it dawned on me, because I was really hung up on, if I go down to 1 episode, the people that have been all, no, don't go down to 2. I really love hearing this twice a week, blah, 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 blah. It's that change. So here's the thing. Anybody new that would come onto the podcast, they would only know it as once a week. So all of my new quote unquote customers, just like your business, all my new listeners would never know any different. They wouldn't know what I did in the past. They would only know what it is that I'm doing today going forward. So if I was to go to once a week, all the new people coming aboard wouldn't know any different. It would be the folks from the past that would know the difference. Some would like the change, some would not like the change. Now take that back to your business for a second. Sometimes we don't want to make changes because we don't want to upset the customers from the past. We don't want them to look at us differently, to think of us differently, to want to change because we've changed our business. But here's the thing. A business has to change and adapt in order to move forward. Your business needs to adapt and change. Your new customers won't know any different. It's just like when you raise your prices, your new customers won't know the difference. Okay. They weren't there during any other pricing. All right. Yes, we can tell them stories about buying milk for 15 cents and bread for a nickel and all that other good stuff, but they weren't there. They never experienced it. Right. Just like when your grandparents talk about those prices. Well, guess what? With your business, when you go to recalibrate, you can't get hung up on what your customers are going to think. What you have to do is, are you fulfilling a need that they have? That's what's most important. And that's what matters to them, because the new people won't care what your business looked like before. What they care about is what your business looks like today. And the people in the past, if they loved the service you gave them, they loved the quality of the work that you gave them, the fact that you filled the need that they had and you made their lives better, guess what? They're going to go along with whatever changes you make in your business. You know what? Sure, are they going to continue to reach out to you years later and say, hey, remember when you did this for me? Can you do it now? You're going to say, you know what? I'm sorry, I just don't do that area anymore, or I don't offer that product or service anymore. They'll understand, maybe especially if you can find somebody to refer them to who does do that. Once again, recalibration can look like so many things to so many different people. Sometimes you're recalibrating your prices, like I just mentioned. Sometimes you're recalibrating the products and services you give. Sometimes you're recalibrating the service area that you do. Sometimes you're recalibrating how much time and energy you personally are spending in the business. But whatever it is, you need to look out that 3 years and say, what do I want my business to look like? What is special about that business? Don't get hung up on why you can't do it. Focus on what it needs to look like and then work backwards. I promise you'll get past any of the hurdles and the obstacles in your way. You've already defied the odds where you are today. But if you find yourself stuck, you find yourself frustrated, you find yourself wanting to chuck the whole thing and cash in and just close down the business, before you do it, ask yourself, what would it look like? What should it look like before I do it? Okay. I really want each and every one of you guys, no matter where you're at in your business today, ask yourself that 3-year question. What recalibration do you need to do today in order for you to continue to move that business forward and be happy in that business and loving what it is that you do? Some of you might come out and decide that, hey, in 3 years, you don't even want anything to do with it. Great. Then your recalibration is, how do you get your business ready to be sold? Or how do you get your business ready to be shut down? How do you get your business to whatever that is that you decide? All right. Recalibration is a core thing. You actually should do it at least once a year and always be asking yourself. And since we're towards the end of a year at the time of the recording, it's a great time to do that recalibration as you set your goals for the coming year. And if you're listening to this episode in the middle of the year or at the beginning of the year or whenever, it doesn't matter. If you haven't recalibrated your business in over a year, maybe it's time for you to do this as well. All right. I'm starting to get to that rattling part, and you know my rules. When I start rattling, I got to say goodbye. So I am going to say goodbye for now, and I'll talk to you on the next episode. Bye for now. Hey, badass business owner, before you go, as you know, I'm a huge believer in you knowing your business numbers. After all, it isn't about how much you sell. It's about what you keep. And the best way to grow your profits is to start diving in and understanding those business numbers. To help you on this journey, I have created the Know Your Business Numbers course. We will walk through how to read your profit and loss statement. You'll learn the key calculations that'll help ensure that you're making a healthy profit on all of your products or services, plus a ton of other good stuff that'll help you learn how to use those business numbers to create even more sales and profits. Just check out the link below in the show notes or visit knowyourbusinessnumberscourse.com. So if you're ready to increase those profits, it's time you start diving into your business numbers.